Hello, welcome to Walpole United WFC.
Hello, welcome. It's Walpole United WFC, and yeah, it's me. Unexpected, not just for you, but pretty much all of us at the moment. But we're very much looking forward to what today has got to do. Don't adjust your television sets. Absolutely, I'm going to get darker. Absolutely, Connor is actually that red. That's what happens when they go off gallivanting around the country. Charlie has not fallen off of Old Trafford, and yes, Andrew still beautifully stays in front of the background that he always has. We've got loads to talk about today, and I'm sure that we're all going to look forward to it, but we'll do our little run around the clock, I suppose, and see how everybody's getting on. So, Connor, how are you, my friend?
Yes, I will. People do know I do go a little bit red when I'm in front of a camera. However, this is sunburn. This is not like secondhand embarrassment or anything like that. It's all over my hands and everything. So if anyone wonders why I'm completely red, that's what being out in the direct sun for 12 hours with no sun cream or anything on does to you. So yeah, I'm kind of burning away. But other than that, I'm good. And I'm sorry for being a little bit late. I'm the reason, by the way, everyone, that show's a little bit late. So I do apologise.
I'm sure everybody here will let you off. Young Charlie, how are you?
Young Charlie, just a quick one. You're never too old for sun cream, Connor. Okay, never too old for that. So get some. I'm really good, thank you. I'm looking forward to a little bit of Galton chat tonight. One of my favourite Man United women players of all time.
Very good. And you seem to have gone to a different place. Where are you today?
Me, I'm at LSV today. So I'm going to be somewhere different every time. And there's a prize for the winner, and the prize whoever gets is bragging rights.
Nice. Well, we'll all be after that then. So there we go. Now it's a competition I'm interested in. So we'll go for that. Excellent. And Andrew, how are you, my friend?
All good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. So it has been, without a doubt, a very dull weekend, really, hasn't it? Not a lot been going on. Highlights of my day, getting Sky put into the new gaff, and then watching the F1 on it. That was it. That was about as exciting as my day went. It's nowhere near as good as Connor's. So it's about time we got some football chatting, I think. It's about time we started talking about the things and the reasons as to why we are here. And there are two of them. You might have seen their fantastic faces in our thumbnails. And we are talking today about Martha Thomas and Leah Galton. So I figured we'd start with both of them, to be honest with you. We can take them as one, but feel free to go about your business, talking about individually if you would like to or not. But I suppose really they sort of got missed out a little bit in terms of the end of season chat. They were overshadowed a little bit maybe by people like Earps and Tooney and Russo, the kind of people that have been named Zellum. You know, they've had their own shows, all those sorts of things. So I guess really, just briefly, as a little reflection, what do we think of the season that both Martha Thomas and Leah Galton have managed to have? We'll kick off with you, Andrew. What do you reckon? How has their season been?
I think they've had good seasons. I mean, for like Leah Galton, I think it didn't start off as well. I just think she maybe, I don't know if it was like lacking confidence or just getting used to Mark Skinner, the direction he wanted to take the team. But then you could say that from most of the other players as well. There was like trying to figure out what to do in games or where to position himself. And Leah, say in the second half of the seasons where she really, came alive, and seeing some of the assists and goals. I'm thinking that home game against Brighton, was like literally just, pushing for that goal, and she got it in the end, and we got that 1-0 victory. And for Galton, she's primarily a left winger. She's very comfortable staying on the left side of the pitch as well, and has that effective partnership with Hannah Blundell as well. So, I mean, Martha Thomas, say she's say she's had two different positions. Like she's been on the right wing, and then she's been as the number 10. So, sorry, number 9, should I say, the striker's role. So, yeah, I say she's had a good first season, but I'm like expecting a bit more from her next season as well. I would have liked to see her get a couple more goals. I'm thinking that one at Old Trafford where it should have been. She should have had that goal at Old Trafford, which never was. But yeah, just for Martha Thomas, I know she's had she did have a couple of injuries last season, so it was like maybe a bit stop-start, but I think if she can hit the ground running next season, then especially along that attacking lineup we've got of Toon, Russo, Thomas, and Galton. Like I say, that can all interchange with each other, and like we could really be on fire next season.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there is a lot to be said for knowing each other and knowing the way that each other play. We all know how I like to have what I can only describe as terrible reading problems, and we've just had another one just here. Sorry, Ellie, we're just going to throw this one in. Galton has been amazing, especially in the reading game, and it took me a while to get that one in. Reading, not reading. So it's going to be another one of those days, folks. It's going to be another one of those days. But let's go from the sublime to the even better. Charlie, what you got for us?
Yes.
Martha Thomas, Leah Galton. How do you rank their season so far?
I think overall it's been a really good season for Leah. I think the start of the season she really struggled. I think probably just with the managerial change. She always refers to Casey as being that person that reinstilled her love of football, because I think she'd been out for a while. She'd stopped playing and had half a season or a season out, and then Casey came calling and she came back. So she had quite an affinity with her, and sort of Leah always felt the trajectory of her season and of her footballing career was down to Casey, really, and she brought that love of it back. I think probably Mark coming in, she found that difficult. I think she's even said that herself, actually, quite openly. I think also tactically at the start as well, it was maybe not what she was used to. She's a very direct player. She likes to run with the ball at her feet and commit defenders and charge forward and dribble, and there was less of that happening. I think even as fans we were watching that and we weren't really quite sure how she was going to fit in, because it seemed to be more of a defensive role she seemed to be taking up and not driving forwards with the ball, having been one of the best wingers at that in the WSL. And that was quite difficult, I think, because perhaps the reaction from us was a bit off as well when we were watching her and sort of reacting to the fact that she wasn't doing what she'd normally do. But I think as the season went on and she adapted more to what was being expected of her, she did brilliantly. And to have sort of very stop-start and difficult start to the season, but still get 8 goals and 3 assists is really good from a midfielder. And if we were getting that from all of our midfielders, I have no doubt we'd probably have finished higher up the league. I think the big thing for me, I think I noticed how important she was when we played City at the Academy Stadium. We didn't know she wasn't going to play, and then all of a sudden she wasn't in the lineup and she was injured. And I think as a fan base, when we were there was lots of grumblings about that, and we missed her. We missed the directness and the aggression from her. I think she's a really important player. I forget how old she is, actually. I feel like she's always younger than she is. I think she's 28. So she's hitting her peak. She's hitting her prime, and I would expect another big season from her next year. With Martha Thomas, I think it's probably always a tough one coming from sort of, and this is not meant to be derogatory, coming from a West Ham to a Man United, where the expectation is different, when the number of people watching you is different, increases. It's obviously where you perhaps go from playing in front of a crowd that are sort of sitting there quietly, which is fine, to one that's not, whether you're home or you're away, and it's getting used to that as well. Sort of more of a cauldron effect. And I just think, obviously, she had a slower start. I think she was sort of eased in a little bit as a new signing. I think probably a big work on for her might be her composure. Maybe in those key moments when it matters most. But again, that's all due to perhaps getting used to the expectation and what's required when you put on a Man United shirt as opposed to another one. But I like her. She works blooming hard. and you need players that are going to do that. And she's done a sterling job out on the right wing when quite clearly she'd rather be an out-and-out striker. But I think overall it's been a really good, is it inaugural? Does that mean first? I don't know. Season for her. 5 goals, I think, 2 assists. Had a bit of an injury. Thank you. A bit of literacy there. But yeah, I think good first season from her, solid, and I would hope she would kick on next season.
Love that. Top word. They're really a top inaugural today. There we go. Let's see if we can get a bit of culture into this show as well. So we can throw that in there. Connor's always good with words. What have you got for us, Connor? So Thomas, Galton, they've had, I would say, overall good seasons, but is it enough? Do they need to do more? What do you think?
Connor's good with words. You say that. I think I put in our chat. I failed English about 6 times, so I'm not good with words. Yeah, they both had a solid second half of the season in particular. I think Marty said it a bit earlier on regarding Thomas. I'll do for Thomas first off. I agree. I think she was steady throughout. There was a couple of games, but I think the Villa game was the one. She could have had a hat-trick in that game, and she knows that. But yeah, there was a couple of chances where you think, as Andrew said, she should have had the goal at Old Trafford. But yeah, I thought Thomas had just a steady season, considering that's not her position. And I don't know whether, we'll probably talk about this a bit later on, but, we're talking about wingers today. Thomas isn't really a winger. I don't see her as a winger anyway. I think she did well out there. And, I've said in previous shows that front three was very kind of interchangeable, which was nice, but Thomas is not a right winger. So, yeah, she did really well considering that's not her position. And Leah, yeah, I think as a newish fan this season, for me, it was interesting because I asked everyone pretty much the same question when I came in. Who's the players to look out for? Obviously, there was the Jackie shouts. There was, Vilda. Obviously, people were excited about her. But everyone said Leah. And she started off the season quite slow. I know she got a couple of the goal, obviously, earlier on in the season. But everyone was saying this isn't the Leah that we're used to seeing. But, as the season progressed, I think a lot of people have said it in the comments already, getting used to Skinner's system. It was different to Casey's. And not only that, like Charlie said, it's different management. Skinner manages the players in a different, on the training pitch, whether, pre-match, post-match, it's going to be different conversations. So that's going to take a while to adapt as well. So yeah, I thought Leah had certainly a solid end to the season as well. I think Andrew referenced it, the Brighton goal, that kept us in the top 3 race because we draw that game. It doesn't even go to the last day. So yeah, they both had solid seasons considering, I said, the whole side. That's why I think when we look at the season that's just gone, I don't like to keep looking back, so we're trying to look ahead now, but that's why I think it was so commendable, because a lot of the players were kind of shoehorned into positions, a lot of rotation in the side, not maybe towards the end, but at the start, trying to find the right players for the right system. We saw so many different players kind of in different positions. So, yeah, I thought Leah did quite well towards the second end of the season. Like I said, crucial goals as well. And I think Ellie said it earlier on in the comments as well. Come next season, she gets a stable front 3, 4, whatever you want to call it, kind of around her. We'll probably see the best of her next season as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, as you say, we've looked back a little bit, and I've got to say here as well, I agree entirely with what Ellie says here. Thomas played brilliantly at Old Trafford. The minute I think of Martha Thomas, the standout moment for me, when we spoke about Russo, I told you that my standout moment is her putting Ashley Neville on her backside just before scoring the goal against Spurs. For Thomas, my standout moment is just how she just did that little Cruyff turn through the legs of whoever the left back was.
Barry, 1 second. I've got it. It is still saved. That moment.
Can we do that again? Do it again. I'm going to take away the comment because we didn't see the actual techers. That's brilliant. So, we couldn't just plan that any better. And it's just that little bit. As soon as it happens, you just hear everyone go, woo! It's brilliant, like a firework. So that to me was like a standout moment. But absolutely, equally, you also think about Aston Villa and the ball coming across the header. She was absolutely distraught at the end of the game. She knew that was, a tricky moment for her. And I think also, moving forwards, this is, I think, a very interesting little thing to have said in my opinion, Leah is irreplaceable. Now, that is a massive word to use, irreplaceable. And I guess I kind of wanted to go down. Do we think that maybe Leah Galton was undervalued this season? Because Russo's got all of the plaudits. She's won Player of the Year for us. She's been the Players' Player of the Year. She's got a lot of the plaudits. But she's scored 9 goals this season, and Leah Galton 8. So in terms of actual WSL involvement, Galton did really well. Andrew's already mentioned the game against Brighton. Without that goal, we would have been way back. We would have had the chance to have got where we finally got to. So do we think that maybe Galton was just a little bit undervalued, and that therefore this comment from John, what do we think? Irreplaceable? Is that a good word to use? Because we're about to talk about possible people that could replace or could possibly come in as backup. What do you think of that, Andrew? Irreplaceable, or would you choose a different word?
It's a tough one. I say no. We want that competition for all the players. Whether say you want, Leah to have, somebody if somebody comes in like that position, somebody's going to push her even, further along as well. I mean, you look at Galton, she's like comfortable, when on the attack, attacking defenders while moving at high speed, which is creating additional problems for the opposition as well. She's got those effective, body feints and just trying to deceive the opposition as well. So the saying she's also a crossing ability as well. She can the types of crosses she can put into the box from low or high crosses. I think that one was it the one at Chelsea away where Ella Toon scored. I think was Leah that crossed that in. But like I say, her crossing abilities, a mixture of those as well. So it's putting the opposition, on alert. Well, what's coming next from Leah as well. So I think she is an integral part of the squad going forward as well. So and could lead us to possible success next season. She's an effective weapon to have on the pitch as well. So, and I think if she had that slow start last season, but then she picked it up once she got used to Skinner and the way he wanted the team to play. So I think without her in the side, I don't think we'd be nearly as effective. So an ability to win 1v1s and and deliver balls into different channels on the pitch as well. But also she'll also trap back as well. So when Hannah Blundell's getting forward, Leah will trap back and help out in the defence as well, which is what you want as well. You don't want both of them. Unless we're on full out attack, then Hannah and Leah can be further up the field. But then Leah's like, I can spot danger here. I'll get back and help out the defence too. So she's to say an all-round good player. So I think based on that, I probably would say irreplaceable now. So so it's just if we can find, so it's all important to have that competition. So you want, a backup that's just as effective as Leah as well for next season as well.
Fair play. I mean, Lanzell has come out with 2 absolute doozies in that one.
Oh my gosh, I've basically just written that down as well. I'm sorry, I've just seen Lanzell's comment and I've literally written the same sentence. Sorry.
No. There's some
You've never
weird
seen
vibes
Lanzell
going
and I
on
in the
today.
same room?
No, I haven't.
So
I have seen you and Lanzell though, whereas I haven't seen Marty and TJ. So, it's not quite got to their level yet. So he's put that Galton, best left winger in the league for him. And then the only person even close is Lauren Hemp. Would you put Leah Galton at that sort of level, Charlie?
I think Leah Galton has the same importance for us as Lauren Hemp has for Manchester City. I think Lauren Hemp is, I hate to say it. I think she's probably the best winger in the league, the best left winger in the league, which I hate to say. And she's only very young as well, and it's frightening to think how far she can go. So show her the money, get her over to the red side, please. But I think that thing about is she irreplaceable, we've not got anyone clearly on the books that Mark Skinner thinks can step in for her. So in that sense, she is. So if she's not playing, there is no one in his clearly that he thinks is good enough to take her place. But I would say generally that no player is irreplaceable. You just sometimes there is not better available out there. That's not me dumbing her down. Like I think she's brilliant. I think the number of goals she scores, the assists she gets, the pinpoint crosses, the passes that she plays, I think she's really important now to the system and what we're trying to do. And like I've said, if we had that level of goal involvement from all of our forward players on both wings, it would have had a massive impact on the season. I think that thing about, do we think she's been underappreciated? I think if you're in the stands and you're on social media, I think no, generally, I think she's not underappreciated. I think the fans understand what she offers and what she provides for us. But I think the reason probably Russo has got the plaudits this year is because for Leah, she just does this all the time. Like we've had 4 years of her doing this. And we've said a bit about honour, haven't we? That sometimes when that's the norm, it's less noticed. Whereas this year was Russo's sort of breakout year, and quite rightly, she won all the awards for that. But you're quite right. It mustn't be overlooked what Galton's done. So irreplaceable in the context of our team, yes, because we haven't got an adequate replacement. But in the context of football as a whole, I don't think any player is irreplaceable.
Brilliant. Connor, I see you nodding along there. Would you pretty much agree with that?
How can I follow that? That is literally everything summed up. Yeah, I don't think I agree. I think I really don't know what else to add, because that is exactly how I would have described it. I don't think it depends on your.
So Lancel said it, she wrote it, and now you copy it.
It depends on your interpretation of irreplaceable, because if you're saying like Charlie said, irreplaceable to us right now, yes, because we wouldn't invest in a player of her ability. Whereas if that's Chelsea, they would. So, but like Charlie said a minute ago, no player is it. You don't want any player that's that kind of. TJ, right? Just bringing this up very quickly. I am, because I am sunburnt. Swearing, shouldn't do that. So yeah, if you can see my arms right now, they are bright red as well. That's what you get, 12 hours in the sun. But yes, so that's why I am bright red at the moment. I've got little. I'm wearing my sunglasses.
He said he went to Download Festival. Well, I think he actually went to the Ribena factory.
Yes, there was a lot of sunburned people around the festival, I can tell you that. Anyway, yeah, so I don't think you can say anyone's irreplaceable, but in a United squad, just because we know, I mean, look at the transfer window so far, even though it's not over yet, it's tough. But yeah, I'm not too sure how much more to add on that one.
I was going to say,
that's a very interesting thing. Well, go on, Andrew.
I was going to say, we're saying about irreplaceable players, there's not anyone adequate at the moment. Well, if we was to bring somebody maybe in, I'm just thinking, looking within the squad, could Hannah Blundell essentially be in the same position as what Leah does? So I know they overlap, but could she, if Leah wasn't there, could Hannah Blundell do essentially the job that Leah does? So I'm just thinking, looking within what we've got at the moment, could Blundell actually do the same role as Leah? So
I think, sorry, just very quickly, that's why I brought this comment up, because I think, I don't know what you're exactly referring to, Mark, but the way I've interpreted it is because Leah is versatile, she can play, fullback. She's done it this season. She could play fullback, she could play left wing. You would almost need to sign somebody who can do both, because at the moment we've seen this season when our fullbacks have been injured, Leah's dropped back. Now, if you signed a Hemp, for example, it's never going to happen, but if you did, Hemp wouldn't drop back, would she? So you'd need to sign another backup fullback then to fill that void as well. So, yeah, I think I agree with Martin's comment. You would need to sign a couple of players just to replace Leah. She
was a really good left back as well. I think it was last season, wasn't it, when we had Heath and Pressing? She spent a lot of time, I think, at left back to kind of accommodate them, and she was really good. So I spotted that comment from Martin as well. I think that's right. I think Leah does do the job of two players. Really, she works incredibly hard. All game, she's almost sort of dead on the feet by the end of the game, because she's covering that entire left hand side. She's brilliant.
Absolutely. Connie, got some more?
I've got some more. What
Or are you
have we
quite
got?
happy?
No, I'm all good. I made a little point there. It was
All
on
good?
Marty's comment.
So, I suppose the thing that I found mostly interesting about our two wingers in terms of Thomas and Galton is that Leah has pretty much left midfield, left winger, however you want to call it. It's pretty much hers. Nobody seems to challenge her for it. Nobody seems to take her place for it. She's just there. You take it for granted. Perhaps one of the first names on the team sheet. The right side of midfield, however, the right wing side, we know that Russo's played there. We know that Toon's played there. Thomas came in, made it her own, carved it out for herself. And I don't think anyone would question the attitude and the level of work that she put into every single game, because she was by far, I felt, the hardest working player on the pitch, certainly offensively, in terms of trying to win that ball back, close people down, and do those types of things. But the interesting thing is that when you start looking at people that would play in those places that we already have in the club. So I've already mentioned Toon and Russo both played out on the right. Really, I think you've got Hansen, Fuso, and Jones, unless anybody else wants to add any possible names in that are currently at in the team that could potentially play in the Galton or Thomas role. And I suppose really my question just kind of pops now into number one. Do you think that Galton and Thomas would be your starting two if we made no signings whatsoever and we were starting the season again tomorrow? Would you start with Galton and Thomas? Would you hashtag Hansen in? Is it free Fuso? Hashtag free Fuso. I haven't got one for Carrie. Hashtag choose Carrie. Doesn't work as well. Do we go back with Toon for the second coming of the right-hand side? Do we put Russo in there because we might have somebody who can play up front? There's so many options. What would be, if we were kicking off tomorrow, your two? I'm going to go with you first, Connor. I'm going to spread it around now. I like to change it about a bit.
Everything you just said, they're options, but they're not the right options. I think that's my issue with it.
Square pegs, round holes. Square pegs, round holes.
Exactly. And I'm going to go a little bit off piece before I come back to my point. It's not that comment. Okay. Sorry, TJ. Clicked on the wrong button. That one talking about honour. Now, it links into this right-hand side chat because I've said this all season that all of our attacks on the right-hand side, a lot of them is generated because of honour. So I don't think it matters who you play out there. It's honour that creates that opportunity. Look at the goal at Old Trafford. It's honour on that right-hand side. There's no other player out there. Every attack you see on our right-hand side comes from her. So I don't think it really matters who you play out there. It's coming from the fullback rather than the winger herself. In terms of your actual question, in terms of the two, obviously, like you said, Leah staple on that left-hand side, but I wouldn't want any of them out on the right. This is where you look at investment and looking at the players that we've already, that we will get to, that we've been linked with and that kind of thing. We need someone else on the right because if Hansen's not going to get a look in now, she clearly, I don't know what happened with Hansen this season. We know she went out with an injury, but she couldn't get her way back into the squad or back into the starting 11. Fuso, I'm not convinced she's a winger personally. I don't think she's got the passing ability for that. And obviously we don't know what's happening with her. She looks like she's on the way out as well. Carrie Jones came in at the start of the season, did pretty well in a couple of games, but again, she's a youngster as well. So all of those options you mentioned, Tooney and Russo, I do not want to see out there ever again, purely just because that's not their positions. Keep them where they're good, where their best positions are. So it's a tough one. It really is because we don't have. It's very similar. United's men's team had this for years. We never had a right winger. We've got it in the women's team. We don't have a natural right winger, really.
Really?
I mean,
do you remember Juan Mata? Do you remember Juan Mata and Shinji Kagawa, the right wingers?
Oh yeah, versatile right wingers, but yeah. So Hansen would be the one that I would want to see out there, but Skinner doesn't seem to favour her, which is a shame because Hansen started off the season really well. So it is a tough one. It's like Charlie said, a square pegs round holes scenario, isn't it?
I think so.
I would.
And I think.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting that, as we said, on the left-hand side, we mentioned Galton's brilliant deliveries. He's able to do that. On the right, Connor's just said it. Marty's just said it. The balls tend to come from honour in that respect. Martha isn't necessarily someone who gets the ball in as well as, shall we say, the other side. It's not a mirror image of each other. Do you think that maybe that's when you're talking about two positions almost in terms of Galton doing two players worth work? Do you think also there's an element of that there insofar as that Thomas has been brilliant going forward and winning the ball back and doing those sorts of things? Is that just part of her game that she needs to work on, Charlie, in order to nail that down? Or would you go, if everything's coming from Honor, do you put a Hansen or a Fuso or a Jones in and see if their delivery is superior? How does that work? What would your analytical brain tell you?
I understand. I get the idea of, I think Mark's talked about he wants players that can play in more than one position, so aren't sort of hamstrung by I just play here, which is perhaps why he has the three forwards that he has. The idea that Martha Thomas can drift inside, and this idea that Russo can do half a job on the right, whether you agree with this or not, that's perhaps what he's thinking about with that fluidity. Because once you watch it as well, and Galton seems to end up being the focal point. But I still feel like you still need to buy players who are specialists in particular positions, but then they have the footballing intelligence and ability to roam if needed and to play other positions if required. So I think if it's not Hansen, if Hansen's available and fit and at her best, I would absolutely play her as our right-sided, as our right winger or right-sided attacker, because that's her best position. And it kind of offers, if you've got two outlets, if you've got Leah Galton, who's brilliant with the ball at her feet, and as a result they're doubling up on her. If you then have the same on the other side, it kind of prevents that from happening so much. So I would always play, and it's again not a slight on Martha Thomas at all, because she's been playing out of position and she's done a job. But I would always go for the player whose position that actually is. Maybe that's a little bit too old-fashioned, but I would, if I've got a right winger who is good, I would play a right winger. But there's got to be more to it than that. There's got to be some reason that Hansen's not played. I don't think Fusto's a right winger either. I think she's a brilliant footballer. I just don't know where you'd fit her in at the moment. But yeah, I would play Hansen. Just to be dead honest.
Hashtag. I believe if Skinner had seen the hashtag, he'd have played her by now. It doesn't strike me as the sort of person that would ignore me, but there you go. I've got to say here, TJ, I don't know what sort of bench abilities you're thinking of, but most benches just have the ability to sit down on, surely. I saw one with a cup holder once, but I'm not sure that's going to help us too much. He'll appreciate that, Colin, don't worry. Whilst he's having a little giggle about that, Andrew, what's your thoughts on where we are with the right-hand side? Where we'd start?
I was going to say, with Leah, definitely on the left. That's, that position's now down. The right-hand side, I don't want to say she did an effective job when she was put on that side, Martha Thomas was, but it's not the long-term solution. Like with Russo as well, I'm just thinking, can Thomas and Russo play, as the two strikers, and then we have another right wing. It could be Hansen, but I say last season we didn't see as much of her, and so I don't know how truly effective she can be on the right side. And I'm just thinking, kind of mentioned about most of the attacks from the right side, that right hand side came from Honor. Like I said, with with Leah and Hannah Blundell, could Hannah be on the left side if Leah wasn't there? Could Mark think, I'll switch Honor to a right winger and then have to bring in a new right back as well? So if Honor decides to stay, hopefully she does. But I'm just thinking Honor could be an effective right winger as well. So, but it's definitely don't want to see Thomas right wing next season. I just think she was going through the mill. Then we might see her scoring a lot more goals, and as Charlie said, to get that more composure on the ball. So when the chance comes, like that Villa game where she had 3 chances and could have scored a hat trick, and then it's like got to take those chances next season as well. So if we want to be pushing for those Champions League spots, or possibly challenging for the league maybe. So it's a tricky one with that right wing with position at the moment. Just going to bring somebody in if Hansen's not his favourite player on that right side, or let's say we just got to see in the transfer window and the squad he's going to shape in the coming months as well.
Okay. Do you think there's an argument then for changing the formation and not necessarily starting next season with the two wingers quite as high up as they are? Andrew?
I don't know whether I'm thinking if you push Russo and Thomas together as strikers, then effectively you sort of go in a 4-4-2. Well, yeah, sort of. Is it a 4-2-4? Well, essentially in that mould. So, I mean, Skinner might have, over the season, what he's looking to do next season, he might say, I need to adapt the formation. Well, I'm thinking of Stewie here. Say you start the game in that formation, but you're necessarily not going to finish in the game in that formation. Or when you're, attacking, the players are all trying to help each other out. So, yeah, I think he might try and do in some games a change of formation, just to give the opposition something to think about, and we can cause them problems, and and score some goals from it. So, yeah, he might just try and mix it up a bit next season.
I think that's the thing. We don't actually know, for next season, when he's got a full pre-season, because we know Skinner came in quite late with a full pre-season, and with the players that I keep saying, all the time, and I'll stand by this. This is not his squad yet. So when he gets the players he wants, we might not see wingers next season. We know that he doesn't not that he doesn't like it, because there's so many different, as someone's just, I can't find a comment now, about plan B, C, and D, and so on. You do need multiple ways to score, but his ideal way is, as somebody else said in the comments, the wingers come inside, so your fullbacks go out. They're the widest players, two fullbacks high and wide, which is why we see Honor and Blundell are so instrumental. And why I mentioned Honor when you're talking about the right-hand side. So we might not see wingers being signed. We might see players that are there's not many of them about. They're hard to find, but specialists in those positions, because Skinner knows he's got a full interrupted pre-season because of the Euros and all those kind of things, and obviously don't know when certain players are going to come back, but planning a little bit differently. We might see a different way of playing next season. We don't know, but just purely playing, I think Sang put it, talking about Chelsea, playing devil's advocate, playing certain players out of position. I think with Chelsea it's a little bit different though, because you've got Emma Hayes who's been there for 10 years. You can kind of make it work, and with the quality of players, I think some of those players can just, you could put, Sam Kerr centre half and she'd probably find a way to score. So yeah, I think you're just looking at a little bit different in terms of the squads.
Different gravy. So I suppose we've had a look now at how Galton's performed, how Thomas has performed, how we think they'll do next season. But a question that came up on previous shows was with regards to two players who have been heavily rumoured with us. We had a whole show with the West Ham fans coming on where we spoke about Leon from West Ham. Funnily enough, that's why we had the West Ham fans. I'm not silly here. And they had a great discussion about how Leon could potentially be a replacement for Russo. Now, I think I successfully battled us out of that particular question and put it more into actually, they're probably not there to replace Russo, could well be for one of the wingers. And as a result, we ended up having a whole conversation then about, is it a replacement for Fuso? Is it a replacement for somebody else? Is it just for backup? Another name that's been mentioned is, of course, Lucia Garcia. And very similar, she plays, I think, more down the channels than through the middle. So, Charlie, I know that you've done a little bit of work in terms of goals and assists where you could find them. How would you say that those names compare to both Thomas and Galton?
It was hard to come by stats for some of them. So if anyone in the comments knows a good place to look, that'd be great. I think Garcia looks like she has promise. She's younger than what we've got at the moment. I think played 29 games this year and got 12 goals and 4 assists. But she doesn't look like, I've done a little bit of a look into her and watched some footage of her where I could find it. And again, she doesn't look like, she's down as a left winger, I think, but again, she doesn't look like an out-and-out left winger. So she's, again, someone who can play across the front three. So if we were looking for perhaps an improvement in quality, who could do a similar role to someone we've already got there, she might be a way to go. And she'll certainly push the players that are already there. So she'll offer some competition. But you're right, she runs the channels really well. So she creates good opportunities for players around her. and she creates opportunities for progressive passes for the players that are playing behind her. She's also got really good movement from what I watched, the bits and pieces. So good spatial awareness, good movement. Like I said, can play across the front three. And she can also be quite direct, and her movement also can. I like a player who has good movement, because it makes the defensive unit you're up against commit and have to make decisions that they perhaps don't want to make. So I think she's got quite a lot she can offer. I think Leon is injury prone, from what I can see. She's maybe more of like a number 10 and a different style to Tooney. So again, likes to run through the channels, whereas Tooney's more a player that'll pick it up and turn and quick feet and make things happen. But again, she's also 30 pretty much. So, I mean, I'm in my 30s. We're brilliant. But I'm just saying, as an athlete, as a professional footballer, you're probably picking up someone who is nearing the back end of their career there, who over the last sort of 3 or 4 seasons hasn't been prolific as a scorer or as a provider of goals. So I'd say she isn't as good as what we have already. And she's not as good as what we've got sat on the bench at the moment, in my opinion. Whereas I think Garcia would be a good investment.
Okay, Andrew, how would you follow up that one in terms of both Garcia and Leon potentially coming to the club?
I think on Leon, I'm just quickly looking at her stats, and I mean, as I say, she plays in the forward role, but she's not scored many goals, and like I think in terms of our forward line, we've got much better than Leon. So I'm just like, I know she's a United fan, but there's no room for sentiment in this game. We can't just
I am too.
So we just can't buy her for set. I'm just thinking, looking at her stats, I'm just thinking, I think she only scored 1 goal out of, I think she only played 13 games in WSL, so you'd expect a bit more of a return. And I think the season before that, I think she only scored 5 goals as well. So I'm like, I want, to see a lot more goals from Leon. Whether she could do that in the United side, I'm not too sure. So, and also it depends what Skinner's thoughts on who he wants to bring in as well. But I think Garcia is probably the one, if he does bring in, then looking forward to seeing as well. So, and say hoping she'll bring definitely all the goals, but be more of a player you can work with for the long term as well. So, and she could be like that, missing piece as well, where we needed it in games as well. And I think from reading the report the other day about Garcia, I think just slightly needs to work on his decision making. So as well during games, and as I say, but her movement around the pitch is pretty good as well. So with her current the team she played for last season as well, and I think Charlie mentioned backstage. Well, I think it's 12 goals and 4 assists.
4 assists.
So
the 8th place side in the women's La Liga, so she won't be surrounded by the top quality. I don't think she's still producing those numbers, and we're saying that's not her at her best. Yeah,
and to say she's more of a rather creative creative playmaker rather than a forward, which is sometimes we've needed in some games. I'm just thinking like that Villa away game where we needed somebody just to unlock that final pass or even like get that goal. So she could have been the one as well. So she has excellent ball control, and she looks for the best option when she's higher up the pitch. I mean, passing accuracy is pretty good as well. So it's definitely a player. If she does come in, and I'll be looking forward to her seeing. Look forward to seeing her in the United shirt if she does come.
100%. It's a fair point, and I wanted to bring up this comment because it is very relevant to this conversation. It's a very good, because it's something I was going to bring up, particularly in relation to Leon. If we're signing I know we did a show on this last week, and Reese, who came on, the West Ham fan, gave some great points about Leon. But I think when you're looking at these two players, obviously we're doing it today, comparing it to our current winger options. If you're signing both of these to be squad players, are they any better than the squad players that we currently have? I guess that's the question. Are either of those two players, Leon and Garcia, going to walk into our starting 11? I don't think either of them do that, and I don't think either of them. Garcia probably will be. at some point. You know, she's still quite young. But again, you're looking at some of the development players that we've got. Why not, if we're going to do that, why not push one of them up at least? Because I don't know. I just think it's a bit of a strange time at the moment. And when you're talking about wingers, I personally don't think Leon's any better than Hansen. I think if you're going to go down that route, you may as well keep Hansen and not sign it. Save the wage. Not that it's going to be a lot, but save the wages and go for somebody else, because that's not an option. We need. I say this all the time. And I think, Barry, you might have referenced this on last week's show. We actually did a show on Leon. Make your starting 11 better first, and your squad depth will get better with that, because your starting 11 will drop to the bench. Don't try and sign squad players just for the sake of signing players. There's no point to that. Make your starting 11 better first. That's what all these top teams are doing. So, yeah, when you compare them to the wingers we've got, yeah, Garcia will be a good one, and I think that's the kind of right signing, but you need players around that as well. That can't be, not all the hopes can be pinned on Garcia, for example. You need players around her that's going to make her better as well, because they're only going to learn off better players.
Yeah, I was going to say, just add one more point on Leon. Well, Leon's a forward. Are we just, like we said, was it square pegs and round holes? Are we trying to fit her into a position that she's not naturally used to? So, like Liz Hansen, he's used to playing on the right wing. So, I just don't want, us to buy Leon, and then we were just doing the same what we've done with Martha Thomas and Russo. I think we're going to have to define the positions for these players for the upcoming season as well. As I said, I don't want Russo or Thomas out on the right wing anymore. I think they're more effective through the centre as well. So, but I just don't think bringing Leon to fill the right winger role is going to be effective. So, I would put Hansen in, or say bring from a player up from one of the devs, give them maybe a try in that position, see how they do as well.
I think it's like we're in that funny situation, aren't we, where we've obviously not got the top three, and we need to improve the squad. And what we have going for us is the name of the football club, because it will generate interest, and it will bring players in as long as we're willing to spend the money, or not spend the money, but offer the contracts to the players that are available on the frees that will turn their head. I think for me, if we get one of them or both of them, we'll support the side. That's what we'll always do. We'll support the team. But if we're just talking about, and all we have to go on, we don't know. Like when Sam Kerr first went to Chelsea, that first 6 months for her were like hell on earth. Like the expectation of her, they said it was like Chelsea men buying Messi. So the expectation on her was massive, and it didn't go well. But we had to have faith that she would come good. Now, the thing is, all you've got to go on is stats and watching them and seeing what they can offer. And for me, as a non, obviously not football expert, so I'm just a fan, Garcia looks to me like a player. And obviously being an international doesn't mean you can automatically adapt to everywhere. So you have to be prepared that you might bring somebody in and they don't immediately set the world alight. And Connor's right, certainly not on their own. Like we need a number of players to come in all sorts of positions to be able to compete with the teams that we want to compete with. One on a domestic level, and then a step above that again on a European level. And for me, I just feel like to go in for someone who's entering sort of the more twilight of their career as an attacking player who doesn't produce much from an attacking point of view just seems like an odd one for me. And it would look like we were getting players in just so we could say, look, we've got a new player. We've been active in the transfer market. We've got this player. Whereas I think Garcia would look like you can rationalise more why you would get her. She's a younger player. She plays on the international stage. She scores goals. She assists. And she might not be the end product, but it's going to be very hard for us at the moment to go out and get the best players in the world to come. So we have to bring in players that are going to improve us, our starting 11. Like Connor says, that then improves the match day squad. So those little pieces that are going to have that impact. Because we're not going to go out and offer £1 million. We're not going to do what Chelsea's new owners are going to do, potentially, and do that. So we've got to get in the best that we possibly can. And of the two we're talking about at the moment, for me, Garcia is the one you take a punt on.
Well, whilst you guys have been busily running the show, rather wonderfully. Thank you very much for that. I decided to sit there and crunch some numbers. And in no particular order, and that's wrong actually, it's in a very particular order. I have worked out the percentages to goals scored compared to appearances in both internationals and the leagues. So not in their college careers if they went to America, not in their youth internationals. As it stands, by the way, I've included in this Thomas, Galton, Leon, Garcia, Fuso, Hansen, and Jones. Okay, so bottom of that pile with 12% is Carrie Jones. Just above her with 21% in terms of goals to game ratio, you are looking at Fuso and Leon. So if she was potentially being signed as a replacement for Fuso, then they'd be a similar sort of level, with the difference being, as Charlie's mentioned, the age. 25%, hashtag Hansen in. 27%, Super Leah Galton. 34%, Lucia Garcia. 37% is actually Martha Thomas. So out of our players that we've been talking about, she actually has the best goals to game ratio over the course of a career, with 19 goals in 57 for United and 7 goals in 13 for Scotland. So the Scotland stats certainly helping her, because just in the WSL she was on 33%. So it kind of ties in really there, Charlie, with what you were suggesting there about how Garcia could be the one to take a punt on and Leon possibly not so much. But that doesn't take into account, obviously, the fact that assists still matter. It's not just about goals that can be scored. Quite frankly, I would take a player who never scored any goals but set up 40. That would be amazing. And I think we'd all love that player, possibly more so than the one that scores 40. So I think we are very much agreed on that one. So I don't really think there's too much more that we can push this down, really. So I suppose I will ask for, should we say, a parting comment, shall we say? In terms of the future, we've looked at these two wingers. We've looked at Hansen, we've looked at Fuso, we've looked at Jones. Now, you've all played the game. Snog, marry, avoid, I'm sure. We're
Where is this going?
But we are going to play. We're going to play start, bench, sell, or loan, to be fair. So basically, you've got to start one, bench one, or loan one. Okay? And
Out of 4.
I think I know where we would go with this. Out of the 3 that I'm going to give you.
Okay.
Okay? So Thomas, Galton, and let's go Thomas, Galton, and Garcia. Out of those 3, if we got Garcia, bench, start, and loan. We'll call it a loan rather than a sell. Okay, so if it's out of those 3 players. Nice little one to finish. I did not prime these guys for this whatsoever.
I can throw mine out there straight away because I'd loan Garcia straight away, purely because we don't know if we're going to get her, and she's the youngest. But yeah, I think if you're talking those 3, it's loan Garcia, it's bench Thomas, and it's start Galton, isn't it? Is that the 3 you said? I think.
Which is the worst out? Which one is the worst thing? Loan.
Is it or is it bench because you might not get games?
Oh, interesting. Oh. See?
Let's see what some of these comments
are saying. Channel. It's a nice channel. We don't sit here going mad there. Start Leah, loan Garcia, bench Thomas. Start Galton, bench Garcia, loan/sell Thomas. Wow. Lanzell didn't listen to the stats, did he?
That's also a point, by the way.
Andrew, which one would you go for?
It's a tricky one. I'd definitely start Leah. I'd bench Garcia and loan Martha Thomas. I was just thinking, because we've got Russo, that's what I'm thinking. Russo can go through the end, and I'm like, Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm like, start Leah, bench Garcia, and loan Thomas. Even though I don't want to loan Martha Thomas out.
And Charlie?
Start Galton. That was the easiest one. Bench Garcia, because I'm thinking about a position we need to improve in the side, a specific position, which she might be ready-made for, and then loan out Martha Thomas. But you've got to remember, I'm loaning her out because I think she can offer something extra when she comes back. That's how it works, isn't it?
It is. I've got to say, I've never seen you or Peter Hannum in the same room either, so potentially multiple accounts going on here. That one felt too easy, so I'm going to finish off on a slightly harder one. Thomas, Galton, Hanson, because I've hashtag Hanson in all the time. Thomas, Galton, Hanson.
That's a tougher one.
Yeah, I thought that.
Are we saying?
I don't know why I can only start one of these. This seems counterproductive.
So start bench and loan, is it? Yeah.
Is it loan or sell?
Yeah,
because you wouldn't really loan either.
Loan.
You wouldn't loan any
Definitely
of them.
Definitely loan. I'm not selling anybody.
Right, shall I go first?
Anyone.
I'll go first because no sentiment, none at all is required. You can't think like that. Galton start again, Hanson bench because she's a proper right winger. So I feel like you need her, and then Thomas again loan, but not to a silly side, to a good footballing side.
Yeah, not Anchorage and Stanley. No. Andrew, what are you going with?
Still starting Leah. I bench Thomas and I would loan Kirsty Hansen out. I just think we haven't seen much. I know much of last. Sorry, Barry. Sorry. I just think maybe that loan. I was saying that sending her out loan might be for the benefit for her and us as well. Which she'll improve her game, and then when she comes back, she can cement that position. So yeah, that would be the way I would do that 3. Oh, and yeah, that'll be trending next.
I jest. Connor, anything for you?
I agree with Charlie. I don't like this game because you'd start Leah and Hanson in my eyes. You'd start them both. But in your little scenario, your little world that you've made up here, I think you'd start Leah.
One aside.
Because Thomas has played so well, but I really like Hanson as a player, so I don't like this. I'd bench Hanson, loan Thomas. I'm just going to stick with that because I'll be here all night trying to think of.
Well, there you go. So we had a good old night. It's been a good show. I've very much enjoyed all of your company. It's been fantastic to have you all here. And I think, we had quite a good conversation there. We made quite a bit out of that. And I think, we finished on a little bit of fun. I mean, it was fun for me, probably not for these 3, because I had to do the thinking. But I think what's been really helpful about all of this is that we know full well that whether it's Thomas, whether it's Galton, whether it's Hanson, whether it's Fuso, whether it's Jones, whomever it might be, as Charlie already said, we'll support them, we care about them, we want to see them do well, and ultimately that is the most important thing. And that's what's so brilliant about this football club, is the way in which we continually support those players and support the management and support everyone in what they do. So absolutely, what's this, guys? The Hanson, what was that? The Hanson fan club president. I know, right? I know, Sang. It's outrageous. I cannot believe the absolute attitude of that Andrew he's going to get talking to when we go offline. I jest. It was a tough game. So that's really all from me. So, Andrew, thank you very much for your time, and thank you as well, Charlie. I'm going to hand you over to our official host, Connor, to explain to us what might be happening this week, because he's in the know about that sort of thing, and I just guess and get it wrong.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Let everyone let them get off. But yeah, obviously Thursday we're back 7 o'clock. We got another special show coming for that time slot as well. I believe Barry, you're back on Friday. Fans Forum as usual, 7 o'clock. I believe. Definitely, and we've got some interesting topics to go through this week. Some news that may or may not come out surrounding United later this week. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of stuff to keep an eye on and plenty to discuss. So if anything does happen, obviously there'll be shows all across. Trying to get my words out there, all for United. And yeah, but keep an eye out for that and all the socials. And as Lanzo said, really appreciate everyone in the comments tonight. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming on. Barry, great hosting again. But yeah, we'll see everyone soon.